So Rome has always been involved with the worship of Dagon. And Dagon, as I said, was a fish god. This is why the Pope's mitre is a fish head. And it's very obvious when you look at the mitre from the side, it's a fish head. And all of the symbols, like today, even in Protestant Christianity, which is actually just the offspring of the original Dagon worship, right? The Protestant movement was not happy with the way that Rome was running things. It did not want to change the religion and drop the worship of Dagon and all the other silly nonsense that Rome was into religiously. The Protestant world movement did not want to drop any of that, because that stuff works. It was a winner. I mean, the crowds loved it. So they didn't want to change and do anything spectacular in changing the worship of Dagon. They just didn't like the way Rome was running things, so they broke off and started a new phase of the old Roman religion. They called it Protestantism, because they were protesting against the way Rome ran Europe. So today, even the Protestant churches of the world are worshiping Dagon, and the worship of this ancient god is everywhere. And this is why, even being a fish god, this is why on the back of Christians' cars you will see a fish symbol. We're told that that was a symbol of of early Christianity, was a fish symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, it was the symbol for Christianity, because Christianity was the worship of Dagon, or in astrological terms, Pisces. Pisces was always symbolized by a fish or two fish. And all through the Catholic Church and all through Protestant churches, everywhere you will see Jesus with two fish. And because Jesus, or the story of Jesus, is based on Dagon, the fish god, that represented and was connected to the worship of Pisces, the fish.
Well, he fed the crowds.
That's what Jesus called the great fisherman.
He fed the crowds with a loaf of bread and two fish.
And two fish. The two fish is the symbol of Pisces, the two fish. And in Luke 22:10 in the Bible, in the New Testament, when Jesus is going to be commemorating what they call the Last Supper, the last meal, the Passover meal, the apostles asked Jesus, and this is a symbolic metaphor, but the apostles asked Jesus, where are we going to go now that you're going to die? Now that you're going to leave us, where are we going to go? And he says back, go into the city and you will see a man with a water pitcher. A man carrying a water pitcher. Go into the house of the man with the water pitcher. Well, anybody that knows astrology knows the next sign after Pisces is Aquarius, always symbolized by a man with the water pitcher. And so it was a symbolic story that the sun, that thing that comes up in the morning that brings light into the world, the sun was in the age of Pisces under Jesus. But now that Pisces is leaving the world, there's a new constellation coming on the earth. The new one is the age of Aquarius. So the sun now tells his 12 helpers, the 12 apostles, which are actually the 12 months of the year, or the 12 signs of the zodiac. And so the 12 signs of the zodiac, or the 12 followers of God's Son, ask him, where are we to go if you're going to leave us now in the age of Pisces, the two fish? Where are we going to go? And he says, go into the city where you will see a man with a water pitcher. Go into the house of the man with the water pitcher. Well, that's the house of Aquarius. So I'm saying that the entire story of the New Testament is a metaphor. It's a symbolic story explaining the whole concept of the astrological story, which is far back as you can go in history, the most ancient story on the earth is called astrotheology. And all people who have studied religion know, even the priest and the clergy, they know about astrotheology and about the beginnings of Christianity and where this stuff has come from. They know that. But they have a job to do. They're being paid a salary. Their life depends on. They're in an organization. Just because you're working for Sears or General Motors does not necessarily mean you love General Motors, but it's your job. So if you're going to talk about cars in public, you talk about the boss and the company you work for. You may not like it, but at least they are your boss, and they're the ones that you're getting your paycheck from. And so all the clergy, almost all the clergy I've talked to privately, they say, yeah, we know the whole thing is based on astrology and the astrological symbols of the sun and the 12 signs of the zodiac and all of that. It's overwhelmingly obvious to anybody that studies it. The entire superstructure of Western civilization is based on occult astrology, occult symbols, mystical symbols, words and terms. But the masses of the people have no idea in the world because, and the reason why the people in Western civilization do not know any of this, and it's foreign to hearing, most people hearing me, this stuff is totally foreign. And I understand that. It's because this kind of subject, which I have been looking at for 50 years, this kind of subject has nothing to do with basketball, football, tennis, golf balls, soccer, nothing to do with all the silly games that our masters have given us kids to play with. Give them a ball and let them go out and play so that they don't think too much about what the bosses are doing behind the scenes. Well, I never bought into this, go out and play ball, even as a child. I didn't want to go out and play ball when friends were coming over to visit my family and they would tell us kids, go out and play ball. That to me, even as a kid, I knew. It means the adults want to talk about something and they don't want you children hearing it. I wanted to stay. I would always tell my dad, I don't want to go out and play ball. I want to know what you guys are talking about in the front room when the women are out in the kitchen. I want to hear what the men are talking about because that's where the action is. And so I don't want to be out watching a ball game while the people who claim to be our masters and own us are playing games with our lives behind the scenes and manipulating us, and we are so stupid we buy into it. I have never bought into stupidity and ignorance. I've always known that there's more to the story than meets the eye.
Well, they did that even back in Rome to distract everybody. They would have big games at the Colosseum.
That's right. We still have it in L.A. Everybody goes to the Colosseum. And we have cage fighting and martial arts and all the prize fightings and wrestling, WrestleMania. All of this is entertainment for the masses who are nothing more than maritime admiralty products based on the Holy See. When you understand what the Holy See, where the Pope sits, is called the Holy See. The word see in that context is a chair, the holy chair, where the Bible says that the dark forces of the world sit on the holy chair that's overseeing the seas of the world. The seas of the world are the people. The blood of humans is everywhere. So the Holy See is actually the holy institution that is guiding the whole human race. And Vatican has been very heavily involved in Russia, in China, in Japan, all over Asia, all over Africa. The Vatican is behind so many of the political movements, the Knights of Malta, the Knights, the Masonic Order of Knights, throughout the Roman Empire have been behind the founding of governments, revolutionary governments, especially Central and South America, Brazil, Argentina. That's why South America and Central America is just covered with Nazi secret societies, Opus Dei, to name a few, Propaganda Due, P2, all of these secret societies operating behind world governments, all are directly being influenced by some kind of a very powerful presence in the world that is in position of authority so that millions of people follow and never ask any questions. And once in a while, like in ancient history and through history, once in a while there will be someone who will stand up and say, what is all this stuff really all about? Who's really running the Vatican? Where is all this stuff, who's really financing the Nazi Party and Adolf Hitler? What is the connection between Hitler, the Nazi movement, and the Vatican? Because, boy, there is a big one. Then you've got to find out what is the connection between the Vatican and the rise of communism in the world. Is there an actual factual connection between the Vatican and Nazism, communism, and the fascism? Well, once you start going down that road, now you've got to ask, what is the connection between America and the Vatican that you don't know anything about when it's right in your face? In the ancient Roman Empire, Rome was ruled by the Senate. Well, we have a Senate. And the Vatican Dome represented something called the Domus. The Vatican Dome is the model for the Washington, D.C. Dome. Life magazine, I still have the magazine, did a whole article on the Vatican Dome as the model for the United States Capitol Dome. And how the history book said that Caesar each morning would go up on the hill. And so Caesar ruled the Senate from what is referred to as Capitol Hill. In Rome, there is such a hill that's called Capitoline Hill or Capitol Hill. And that was a seat of power where the Senate was located. Well, that's today. We have a Senate up on the hill. And we have presidents who are like the Vatican, standing in for the Vatican. They are like God. They think themselves to be absolute, divinely inspired gods. When America was supposed to be the land of the free and home of the brave, we're not free or brave. We are maritime admiralty products of people who are crawling on their knees to the Vatican. And we have a Senate. And we know that our American judicial system, the laws in America, our governmental systems, our finances, we know, Americans know, in a gut level, it's all corrupt. It's all mafiosi, gangsters. It's all money buying and selling people. It's all a very violent and dirty world of international politics and big money. We finally figured that out. Well, I knew that 50 years ago, listening to my uncle and listening to my family. So once you understand how corrupt America really is and how far gone we are as a great republic, we no longer have the freedoms that we started out with. And
Jordan, hold that thought. We're coming up to another break. We'll be right back. We're speaking with Jordan Maxwell. And welcome back to Truth Frequency on American Freedom Radio. And we are speaking with Jordan Maxwell, talking about the Vatican, the powers behind governments, and how governments are given their power by divine. So, Jordan, let me ask you this, though. Let me jump back a little bit, because we were talking about the power behind the Vatican, but there seemed to have been a little split there at one point in time with the Knights Templar. Now, the Vatican, at least from what I understand, the Vatican created the Knights Templar to be basically their assassins, and then they turned on the Knights Templar.
Oh, well, because the Knights Templar turned on the Vatican. They felt, it seems to be, as what happened is that the Templars were doing all the dirty work and collecting all the jewels and material treasures from raping the earth and giving it to the Vatican. And they decided, why are we doing that? Why don't we just keep it ourselves? The hell with the Pope and the hell with the church. We'll just do it ourselves because we're the ones. Well, that's the same kind of thinking that goes on with the mob, with the mafia. You know, you're out there on the street, and all of a sudden some of the soldiers begin to think, why are we feeding the old man? Why don't we just start our own movement, our own operation? We call it international bankers. We don't need the Vatican.